This episode is brought to you by Love Hurts. Kiwi Kwan has had quite a career, from childhood roles in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and The Goonies to a recent Academy Award win for Everything Everywhere All at Once. But now Ki finally stars as a leading man in the film Love Hurts. Love Hurts is the perfect date night movie with its mix of over-the-top action, comedy, and a ton of heart. Love Hurts, only at theaters February 7th.
Don't you love it when things are both easier and more affordable? Like when the rain washes your car for you. Or like when you save up to 10% by bundling your renters and auto insurance with USAA. Bundle with USAA and start saving. Get a quote today.
Greetings and welcome to another episode of the Hammer and Umpire Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Kevin Weber. It's been a little while. I've had a little trouble getting another podcast episode out because they changed the podcast app for Spotify for podcasters. It's still there, but they used to have all the tools on there to record your podcast and do different things with it. And now they got rid of all those. I mean, it still host it and everything. But I had to do a lot of research and find another podcast app that's easy to use and free that will allow me to record the podcast. And I have to record the whole thing at one time. So I'm using Podbean to record it, and then I'm putting it over on Spotify. Maybe you don't care. But that's what I had to do. So it took me some research to get that going so that I could make this happen. I'll see how it all goes and how it sounds. Obviously, I've got some different little music here and there with it. If I find something else that works better, then I'm going to use that. All right. So that's a big thing and the reason this took a little bit of time. The other thing is I've been doing stuff during the summer. As a lot of you know, I'm a high school history teacher. I used to teach English a long time too, but now I just pretty much teach history classes. And during the summer, I do some umpiring and I do some things, but I do a lot of traveling and other things because I have that time off. And I took a big trip to Europe. Those of you that maybe follow some stuff on Facebook and stuff maybe saw that. And it was a great trip. Went to the Mediterranean, went to 7 different countries, most of them that I hadn't been to before. And very good time. I had a great time and then did a few other things. The other big thing, I guess, as far as baseball related is I went down to Texas to go to the new ballpark for the Texas Rangers. I know it's been open for a few years, but I had not been there yet. I'd been to the old ballpark. So that once again, I can claim that I've been to all of the current Major League stadiums. So now, total, I've been to 40 Major League stadiums. Obviously, a few of those are no longer with us. Some great ones like Tiger Stadium and Old Comiskey Park and such. And some not so good ones like, the Stade Olympien in Montreal, which was a crummy stadium anyway. I mean, I wish the Expos still had their team, but they needed a new stadium, that's for sure. That's one of the reasons they don't have a team, I guess. Nonetheless, I just want to get a podcast back out here before the school year gets going, which is coming up actually tomorrow for me. And I'm always trying to be consistent with this, but now that maybe I have a way of recording the podcast a little more consistently, I'll be able to get this out. I just have 2 segments for you today, both dealing with rules changes, one with the NCAA and one with the National Federation of High School rules. So all the high school changes, which there's not too many of those, but there are a bunch of changes for the NCAA coming up this next season. So those are the big things that I've got, and you can sit back and relax and listen, hopefully, and for another episode of the Hammer and Umpire Podcast. Well, the NCAA has instituted a multitude of rules changes for 2025. And I think they're all pretty good. And it's going to cause umpires to have to make some adjustments. And probably get either a brand new or reprogrammed timer if they're using those, if the timers are not, visible in the stadiums. So that's not always real cool, but I think that some of the changes are good. So under the previous guidelines, communication technologies like electronic pitch calling systems could only be used in the dugout. So starting with these new rules changes, a player on the field or a coach in the third or the first base boxes, coaching boxes, can initiate one-way communication devices to relay signals or instructions to offensive or defensive players. So that means that coaches can have a presence and remain in third base or first base coaching boxes. A lot of times they would be in the dugout so that they could do things. So that's going to change the way some of the coaches maybe do some things, but that's what they want to do, I guess. Various tinkerings with the on-field action clock are some of the other rule changes. This includes a 2-second shift in when the batter must be alert and ready to hit. So it's going to go from 10 seconds to 8 seconds. I guess that's good. The 10 seconds, I don't know. We didn't really have that called too often, but I guess that's fine. In addition, there can be an action clock set at 30 seconds to indicate the maximum length of a mound visit or an offensive conference. That's probably good. 30 seconds is probably good. Use of double first base, definitely a safety thing. Is an optional thing now for 2025. Eventually, I think that might be something that is standard. Some other changes. Relievers who enter the game to replace a pitcher who had to leave unexpectedly due to an injury or being ejected can take all their warm-up pitches in the bullpen instead of on the game, on the game's pitcher's mound. Also, during a delivery from the wind-up position, pitchers can now take one step without gaining ground toward home plate and one step forward toward home plate with their free foot. So I have to kind of visualize that. In Division I, not 2 and 3, bat testing will be conducted before each day of competition, not just like the series. The bat stickers used that day for games will have to be placed on the lineup cards given to the home plate umpire so they can verify that if they see them coming up. Suspensions for relief pitchers who are ejected for unsportsmanlike actions will be amended to 2 games. Starting pitchers will still be 4 games, so that's a change there. Players already on the field at the time of a potential altercation will not be ejected if they are judged not to be a participant by their actions or not contributing to the escalation of an on-field confrontation. I saw some other things talking about like if you remain on the basically warning track kind of area around the dugouts, you're fine. If obviously you get onto the grass or something, then we might have an issue there. That seems reasonable. It's pretty it's a pretty strict rule. I don't really have a problem with that necessarily, but I can see this change. Another change: a hitter will not have to remain in the batter's box between pitches. Okay, that could be a problem. A team will receive a warning when a pitcher starts the motion to come set or deliver a pitch before a hitter is alert to the pitcher. So any subsequent violations will result in a ball being added to the count for the rest of the game. All right. So that's probably good because we definitely saw some abuses of that. As an optional rule, the action clock will be set at 30 seconds between at-bats for the on-deck hitter to get into the batter's box. Do see a lot of slow guys coming up there, so that's probably a good thing. Hitters will have to be alert to the pitcher by the time 8 seconds remains on the action clock. It will also be optional for the clock to be set at 30 seconds for mound visits and offensive conferences. So we'll see how that all works itself out. On forced play slide rule calls, the ball is going to remain live until the play has fully concluded. Okay. If a pitcher is found to be using a foreign substance on the baseball, the pitcher and the head coach both will be ejected from the game. A starting pitcher also will serve a 4-game suspension, and a relief pitcher will get 2-game suspension as they're changing it. And the video review criteria for fair and foul plays will be expanded to include where a line drive may have touched a fielder's glove before hitting the ground. So that's probably a good change as well. I think anything that expands the reviewable plays is good, other than, trying to review balls and strikes or something like that. But the more things that we can look at and maybe hopefully get correct if there was a mistake, the better. So I think some good changes for NCAA baseball. Some of these will be a little tricky and take a little getting used to get going. I'm sure some of our organizations out there, like the CBUA and definitely the NCAA umpires committee that does all the instructional stuff out there, will be right on top of all of this and definitely help everybody down the road here to make sure they're doing it in a uniform fashion and everybody's doing it the same way around the country. So some good changes. Make sure you're reading up on those rule books and you know what's happening definitely well before you step on the field for the first time in 2025. Well, we have a few minor rules changes for the 2025 high school baseball season after we had quite a few last year. Some that were pretty good, actually, like the communication devices that are allowed and such. Anyway, high school baseball players using non-wood bats for 2025 will have greater flexibility in using substances to enhance their grip on the bat, with a change that brings consistency to Rule 132. So this rule revision was one of only two, I guess, proposed by the NFHS Baseball Rules Committee at their annual meeting. The rule changes were accepted by the Board of Directors, and they're going to be effective for 2025, so make sure you're aware of this. Rule 132C1 addresses allowable grips on non-wood bats, and now includes clarification that resin, pine tar, or another drying agent can be applied to the bat not to exceed beyond 18 inches from the base of the knob. The George Brett kind of rule, right? In addition to allowing players more grip control on their bats, it makes the standard the same as wood bats. So that certainly is a good thing. For years, players using wood bats had the luxury of being allowed to use substances that ensure better grip. This rule change permits users of non-wood bats the same opportunity to protect others while maintaining a firm and solid grip on the baseball bat. Both styles of bats can now enjoy the ability to improve their grip and hold while not interfering with the ball striking area of the bat, hence the 18 inches, right? The other rule change relates to forfeited games. Rule 441 outlines the condition that can result in a forfeit, and item C now includes the failure to remove an ejected coach or team personnel from the game as a reason an umpire may force a team to forfeit. Previously, only an ejected player was listed, so that certainly seems like a worthy change. So Rule 44 is more about coaches maintaining proper decorum for their players and coaching staff. If the emotional rigors of the game become overwhelming for students and coaches, this rule intends to bring the offending parties back to the center of the reason for education-based athletics, which is certainly worthwhile, no doubt about that. So I think two good changes, nothing major or earth-shattering. We had the whole jewelry thing before, which was a good change, and then the communication devices, which is a good change. I'm sure that we will also see a few other things as we move along. I'm sure we're going to be moving toward the double first base in high school baseball. I mean, they're moving that way in college baseball. Also, I mean, it sure would be nice if the third to first move became a balk like it is in pretty much every other baseball rule set, but I don't know if that's going to be happening anytime soon. We certainly are going to keep the dead ball balks. I mean, that's easier for a lot of the high school umpires, which I'm okay with that, but just make the third to first different. I would love to see some kind of rule changes as far as timing and, like a pitch clock kind of thing. I know that's a tricky thing for a lot of umpires and baseball fields, and they certainly can't probably afford to put all the clocks on the fields, but if we could speed up the game in some ways, that would definitely be better. One thing I think that would really help with that would be a non-monetary issue would to have something like college does, where you have 6 conferences total. In college, you have 3 with the coach, any of the coaches, and then 3 others that can be with players. If players decide to visit, like the catcher and the shortstop, whatever, visit the pitcher 4 times, the coaches are down to 2. So if we had those things, that would be better. And also, whenever there is a pitching conference from, the defensive team, that the offensive team is not allowed to have a conference, and pull all the base runners over by third base, for example, unless there is a pitching change. Let them stay on the bases. If we did those things, we'd probably cut down several minutes a game. There seems to be a lot of conferences and unneeded conferences throughout high school baseball games. But anyway, they're moving things in the right direction, I'd say. And those are some of the changes we have coming for high school baseball in 2025. Well, there you have it. Finally, another episode of the Hammer and Umpire Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Obviously, you can look up some additional information on the 2 segments I had today on the rules changes for high school and college baseball. Definitely should do that. Look at them yourself. There's definitely printable things out there for both of those. One other thing I just wanted to give you a little update on that I mentioned last time. I mentioned that I had applied for a college coordinator position, and unfortunately I did not get that. They went with another candidate. I still feel like I was a strong candidate, but that's the way things go. Hopefully in the future things will work out for that. That is what I find in umpiring and in baseball, is that sometimes, you have like a disappointment of some sort. You didn't get an assignment, or something got rained out, or whatever it might be. Something didn't go particularly well, and before you know it, if you just wait a little bit, things usually turn around and go your way, and things start going better. So it's just an ebb and flow of things. It's like that with the umpiring part of it. It's certainly like that with the assigning part of it as well. So it just, I guess, wasn't my time to become a collegiate assigner yet, but I think that will happen sometime in the hopefully near future. I've got a couple more years of teaching left, and then I'll be retired, and I think I can certainly handle it right now, even with my full-time teaching schedule. But I know once I retire, it's going to be much, much easier to do. I'm still doing a lot of summer assigning, and also I'm doing all my high school assigning that I've been doing the last couple, 3 years or so. So just take it for what it is, and that's just the way it goes. You can't be down on it, and you can't be jealous of what other people might get, because usually things, come and go as they're supposed to, I guess. I just kind of trust the process, I suppose. Nonetheless, I hope you guys are having a good fall. That's going to be coming up with fall baseball. Get out there and work a little bit. Go to a camp and get yourself a little bit better. Get yourself seen. Let me know how it's going. I'll be helping out with the 2 Doane camps here in town in Grand Rapids, Michigan. If you're looking for some camps, Bruce Doane has camps for 2-man and 3-man in the fall each year. So those are out there as well. Feel free to contact me. Let me know what you're thinking about. Give me some feedback on the podcast. And as I always say, keep calling strikes.